a shadow that never fades. Thomas Gray woke up in bed with a jolt, sweat clinging to his brow and his small chest heaving under the thin sheets. His room was dark, lit only by the faint glow of the streetlight outside, pushing shadows through the blinds. His eyes darted around the room. The corners were too deep, too silent, as if something watched him from inside them. The house was cold, unreasonably so, and it always seemed colder when he had one of his dreams. No, not dreams. Night terrors. They started a few months ago, not long after his 10th birthday. At first, it was the usual nightmare stuff, falling, drowning, being chased by dogs. But then they changed, grew personal. It began with the voices. They whispered from behind the walls. At first, Thomas thought it was the plumbing or the wind in the crawl space, but they began to take shape. Words, sentences, conversations that didn't belong to anyone in his family. He's still here. He shouldn't have stayed. Take him back down. When he told his parents, they offered reassurances and tighter hugs. His dad chalked it up to stress. His mom took him to a therapist who suggested breathing exercises and kept asking about school bullies. But none of them were in his room at night when the walls pulsed with breath and the ceiling crackled with whispers. The terrors always started the same way. He would open his eyes and be in his bed, frozen. He couldn't move, couldn't scream. And then the door would creak open, slowly, painfully slowly. A tall figure would stand there, half its body still in the hallway, too thin, too crooked, arms longer than they should be. Sometimes it would crawl. Sometimes it would just stand there, and then it would rush him. He would always wake up screaming just before it reached him. Every time. Thomas stopped sleeping. His grades slipped. His eyes grew sunken, his skin pale. The therapist prescribed medication. His parents replaced his nightlight. Nothing helped. Then came the scratches. Tiny claw marks on the wooden bedposts. At first, his parents blamed the dog, but they hadn't had a dog since before Thomas was born. Then came the thudding sounds in the attic, and the cold spots in the hallway that followed him like breath on the back of his neck. It wasn't just him anymore. His mom started complaining about sleepwalking until they checked the camera. It wasn't her. His dad heard banging in the night. Once, he sprinted upstairs thinking Thomas had fallen, only to find him sitting perfectly still at the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. Thomas didn't remember moving. The worst was the laughter. It wasn't a child's. It was low, ragged, hungry. Finally, the family agreed to move. Just to start fresh, they told him, trying to sound cheerful. Thomas didn't argue. The house was evil. He knew it. The first few weeks in the new house were better. Bright windows, new furniture, a backyard with an oak tree. No dreams. Then came the footsteps. Not the rhythmic creaks of an old house, but intentional steps, like someone walking around the foot of his bed, circling. He tried to hide it from his parents, afraid they'd think he was broken. But then came the sleepwalking. He would wake up standing in the hallway or at the edge of the stairs, cold air wrapping around him like wet cloth. He never remembered getting out of bed. Sometimes he'd be standing in the corner of their room, just watching. One night, he woke up in the hallway. His feet were wet, mud on the floor. He turned around. His bedroom was 20 feet behind him. He had no memory of leaving it. But what paralyzed him was the sound behind him. Stomping. Heavy. Angry. Getting closer. He ran, sprinting back to his room, throwing himself under the covers like they were armor. He didn't sleep, just listened. Breath held. Eventually, the house went quiet. The next morning, he begged, pleaded for his parents to just listen to him. "I don't think it was a house," he whispered. "I think it's me." They stared at him, pale, silent. His mother cried. That night, Thomas heard them talking in their room. He did what he always did, crawled down the hallway in silence and pressed his ear against the door. He thought he might hear them debating another move. Instead, he heard something far worse. "It's been months, Jason. We moved to get away from it all. He's gone. You saw him. The coroner said his heart gave out in his sleep. 10 years old." Thomas didn't move. Couldn't breathe. I hear him at night. In the hall. I see him in my dreams. I see him in our room. His father's voice cracked. Me too. Thomas staggered back down the hallway, hands trembling, breath shaking. He wasn't alive. He was the thing in the hallway. He was the night terror.